Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode, can you believe it, of the Echelon Cycling Podcast. Today, I'm joined by friend of the Cycling Dane and owner of Outdo Cycling, Patrick, and we're also joined by special guest George, who's an up-and-coming under-23 rider, riding for Zappies, a very successful under-23 team. And great to have you both here, as we're going to be dissecting what happened over the last few days and look ahead at what's happening in this very busy time of racing. Who would have thought? Let's start with the Euros track racing. Why not? The reason we're covering track is because it's very important, because we're 1 year out from the Paris Olympics. So a lot of these riders are trying to qualify for the Olympics, and we saw the team pursuit. We saw, a whole host of events across the men's and the women's, of course. And we're best to start with the team pursuit, where we had GB, the world champions, and Italy, the Olympic champions, in the final.
I mean, it looked really cool. I really liked just it was just like on one side it was like European, it was like the World Champ bands, and on the other side it was just the like golden bikes, and it was just like a really cool like clash there. But I mean, like Ganna's just showing once again that he is worth like at least one and a half men. Just it's crazy. I mean, the big highlight was really, well, not highlight, but he was like gapping for people on his team. Wasn't like Consoni who was like struggling to hold the wheel, and I was like, wow, bloody hell. It's not. I was like, that looks really tough. But I think GB did a decent job still. They finished what, like 1.2 seconds down at the end of it. But it was really interesting. I think that, would you consider that Italy and GB are like the top two teams? I mean, Denmark as well in there.
I'm not sure Denmark are a top team anymore. I think
Why not?
they've got like a whole new roster of riders, so it's a new
Mm.
generation. So yeah, their big goal for the last generation was to win the gold, but Ghana, he didn't hear the plan. But yeah, like you said, I think Ghana is just like so crazy good. It's insane. Like one of the best track riders on, and that like Gretchen or Greckin or whatever they call the track is also where he got the hour record. So you literally had Dan Bigham, our record holder on that track, versus Ghana and his minions, which was quite funny. They didn't have Ethan Hayter though, so that might have been one of the reasons why GB couldn't beat Ghana, because they managed to beat them like a few months ago.
Yeah, definitely. I think TP is sort of becoming like Clash of the Titans, isn't it? Particularly between Bigham and Ganna, and given the fact that Bigham's doing all the aero stuff for Ganna at Ineos, it just makes it even more exciting and even more of a spectacle. And like you say, those golden bikes, oh my god! I mean, that's got to be one of the best looking bikes ever made. But I think GB have got to be pleased with themselves, because like you said, they didn't have Hayter, they didn't have the squad that necessarily was there. The strongest, although you still had four immensely strong riders there. We've heard it all before that GB don't always want to be like going at their top, at their like peak the year before the Olympics, so they can build on it a little bit and they can get to that start line, because we've talked about the importance of it, and I think it'll be really really exciting to see how both teams look for that edge, and just to see how quick they can go as well, because at the moment it's just the speed's getting quicker and quicker, and you go like, well, is there going to be a limit? Are we going to see them going, sub 3:45 at some point, and they're still 2 odd seconds off? But the way the times are dropping, you're like, wow, it couldn't be too far off.
Yeah, if you look back in the history book, okay, it depends on the track as well. We know that every track is different, but it just seems like insane how it's, like you said, just dropping every Olympics. You got a new world record. And I think now with the hour record of Dan and Filippo Ganna, that was used as a big R&D session for Ineos Grenadiers. So obviously that's going to go forward to both of the teams, and the weird humpback design as well. That was very prominent at the Grecchen European Championships as well. But we also had the individual pursuit. There was no Ghana there, but there was a Milan and a Dan Bigham, and they actually qualified first and second, and then they were in the final. I thought Dan Bigham was going to win it. It was a very back and forth, that final between the two of them. Milan, of course, is a Bahrain victorious rider, World Tour pro. Dan is not a full-time pro, as you guys said. He's a performance aerodynamic engineer, and here he is in the final competing for a continental title, which I think is quite impressive. Yeah, obviously the IP is not an Olympic event, which I think is stupid. We've got like 17 billion events for swimming, but cycling they cut down, so bit of a shame.
I think you're right. Yeah, when you see swimming, you're just like, which stroke is it now? Yeah, I think you're right. It would be cool to have the individual pursuit back. I'm not really sure why they removed it. or what the reasoning was behind that. But yeah, it would be nice to have it back, especially since it all sort of comes down, like you said, to really like the team pursuits, really the big crescendo to it all. I think the individual pursuit is definitely still worthwhile watching. It's basically just like it's not team strength, it's individual strength. So I mean, it might just mean that Ghana gets another victory, but whatever.
No, I think it's a real shame that they've cut it out because individual pursuit is it's 4K fast you can go. It's a real equalizer, right? You haven't got teammates to hide behind. It is literally the strongest man for 4 kilometers. It's an institution, I think, in cycling, particularly track cycling. So it's a real shame. And also, like, how great would it be to see Dan Bigham go from Dan the Raptor Bigham at his time at Brookes University in Oxford, racing local crits to winning an Olympic gold medal on a bright pink bike. That'd be pretty awesome. I think. So I know. I think it's a real shame that it's been sort of taken out. Hopefully they change it, but you never know. Dan might decide to specialize in breakdance at the next Olympics instead.
Or the BMX.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing, this is completely different from most things. Well, it's very different from me. I love hill climbing, and there is this kind of freak show as well at track cycling when you see these huge monsters, track sprinters who one leg is wider than both my legs combined. And it seems the Dutch are all over that right now. One, Harry Larison, just absolutely phenomenal. The current rainbow jersey world champion. And I don't know, do you think he's the fastest guy on two wheels right now?
It's all dependent on where you put him, but I guess on a track, I'd say yes, probably. It's all very dependent, like the length of the event, because I reckon if you put him against Ganna in an individual pursuit, it might be quite difficult. But I reckon in terms of like a sprint, I reckon he's going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, Loveracen's a monster. He's a machine, really, isn't he? The size of his legs are just insane. They put Quadzilla to shame. And I think it was funny when they were getting the team sprint, when they were getting the jerseys for the team sprint ice after they won gold, and they had to get him something like an XXXL jersey because his shoulders were too wide for the jersey. And it's just nuts. The only man I reckon that could challenge him is Matty Richardson of New Zealand. Could have been of GB, having spent a fair bit of time in London. I think he might have even been born there. But GB, sucks to be them. They've missed out on what could have been the next, Chris Hoyle, the next Jason Kenny. But no, Liberation's a machine, and you see they're so strong. The gears they're using now, they're not even dinner plates. They're even bigger. They on these huge chain rings. But just the pure acceleration they've got. I think track cycling in Paris 2024 Olympics is just going to be an incredibly exciting event because, like you said, we've got these great battles in the pursuit events, and then we've also got these like titans of sprint who you've got Harry Labracin, who up to last year he looked unbeatable. He looked like the Usain Bolt of cycling. But it's definitely getting a bit closer now, I think.
This reminds me of when someone asked Chris Hoy if he was faster than Mark Cavendish back when he was on his peak, and he was like, I might be faster than him in a track race, but I would not be anywhere near him in a road race because I would be 100 miles down, dropped on some hill. I think people forget that as well. Even the sprinters in road cycling are good climbers because they have to be to get inside the time limit. But we'll definitely, I think it was very neatly summed up there, George. It's going to be so interesting, the Paris Olympics, and we'll see what happens. But anyways, there's a lot of other races as well, and since you're both English and Patrick is from Yorkshire, I'll let you choose the next one.
Well, I'd like to talk about Ben Turner.
Exactly.
Honestly, the name's so long. Volta Ciclista La Région de Murcia Costa Calida.
I think it used to be a stage race, and now it's a one-day race, which is
it was really interesting. I'm just so happy for Ben Turner. I think that last season was pretty much just him getting used to the peloton, but as such a young rider, just coming out of back in the days of him just doing like Donny Chain Gang and like Otley Town Centre crit where I'm from. It's just so good to see. But now he's like World Tour. He was doing really well in lots of one-day races last year alongside Pidcock and Sheffield, and now he's got his first win already so early on in the season, and that bodes really well for the rest of a cobbled season. And I just can't wait to see what he's going to be doing in the cobbles. And he's quite easy to spot as well because he's like 1 meter a million or whatever. He's huge.
Big Ben Turner. No, it was a great finish as well, wasn't it? It was so narrow and so intense, and he crossed the line. I don't think he even I think he obviously realised he won, but it was so intense that he didn't have time to celebrate. But I think as British fans in general, we can be very excited. We saw in the Volta Valenciana, we saw like Tao Gegenhardt just that stadium was incredible. And then we've got some neo pros in the world tour this year, Josh Tarling, incredible talent, and we've even got the likes of sprinters coming through. And you still got the old dogs around. You still got Cavan that around. I think he's doing all right. No, but I think we can be very excited as British fans.
Well, speaking of Cav, if we move on, he's down in the Tour of Oman, and they had what did you call it, Patrick? The pre-classic race to the Tour.
Yeah, the Muscat Classic. Well, because it takes part in Muscat, which I think is the capital of Oman. And it was just like to be fair to it, it's like a Ardennes sort of style race, bit of like a punchy hill with about 10 kilometers to go for a bit of a reduced sprint selection. But it was such like a fast downhill towards the finish that you basically needed to be at the front like 10 people to even stand a chance because you're going at like 60 k's an hour. So it's like good luck moving up. And yeah, of course, Cav didn't really make it, and not many of the sprinters did. But it was Jenfi Biermans for his new team Arkea Samsic who took the win, which is really good because he has been a bit a miss for the last few years. I remember he was at Katusha like years ago, and then he was at Israel last year, and just good to see when people kind of bounce back in their careers rather than just kind of slowly fading away into nothingness. He got his big win, and I think RK will be really happy with that.
Yeah, no, massively. I think Tour of Oman it's an interesting race. I think all those sort of Middle Eastern races are a bit like Zwift in real life of the scenery. It's not super exciting, but I think that sometimes lets us focus on the race a bit more. It's always nice in the Tour when they pan over to like a lovely waterfall or something, but at the end of the day, you're missing out on racing. So if you're in the middle of the desert, you're gonna have to focus on the race and how the bunch is operating and how the tactics, and then you can sort of get a bit more of an insight. But no, I think it's quite exciting. And obviously, Jesus Herrera's win today, that was exciting. Really punching. He had that acceleration just to get away and get across the line first.
Confidence rider winning. It's not often we say that.
Well, the vampires.
But the first stage, you missed that one. What happened on the first stage?
I mean, it was like really the only sprint stage opportunity for the whole week, pretty much, because everything else is just really up and down all the time towards the finish line. So it was Tim Merlier who took the win there in his resplendent Belgian champs jersey, which will be good news for the Quick Step who picked him up over the off season. I'm sure they'll be very happy with that. Cav wasn't really anywhere there. He finished 22nd. His Astana team got him in decent position, but perhaps a bit too close to the front, considering that it was a slight drag to the line. So he got a bit swamped by his ex Quick Step kind of lead out who came rushing up on from the left hand side. So obviously Cav didn't compete really there, but that doesn't really mean anything for his chances of getting a Tour de France, because I think Astana still looked pretty good. I think that it was just a poor timing that time round. I don't think there's too much to really read into it. Lead outs like Quick Step get that wrong all the time.
So Mark Cavendish, we all know why he's still in the peloton. The man could definitely retire. He's definitely rich enough. With Astana now, kind of very well. I don't want to say bad things about Cavendish because the one time I did, he won 4 stages with the Quick Step. So you can never doubt Mark Cavendish at a Tour de France. But is this the problem that he's going to be facing at the Tour de France? That Astana are not as good as Groupama FDJ, not as good as a Soudal Quick Step or a Lotto Destiny either?
I don't know, because I think I was quite good at surfing the wheels, and I think you see a lot of sprinters nowadays not really with a full lead out, just kind of managing to nip onto the right person and then kind of doing them at the line, really, just on like a throw. So I don't think that Astana having a relatively weak lead out is that bad for Cav. I think that you see a lot of sprinters, surfing the wheels nowadays, and usually it is just like there's a couple of lead outs just on either side of a road, and just people kind of queue up behind him. And sometimes you just got to get lucky. And I reckon all it takes is Cav to get lucky on one stage, and he could certainly still win a stage. But yeah, Astana's just got to get him in good position, and they've definitely got to try and get used to that, because I don't think they've really had a sprinter kind of in their team for a while. So they need to get back into the sprinting mentality a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think what Cav's got that a lot of other riders don't do is that experience, right? We see so many new riders coming through at the moment. Like, he's the Manx missile. He's got years of experience dating back to the HTC High Road days. And I think he'll be so determined to get that win. He'll have that mentality that he will find opportunities. And, going back these sources again, he's won stages that aren't necessarily always sprint stages. And I think will Cav. What I'm interested in seeing is what will Cav, try his luck on a breakaway in a couple of days and maybe try and win through that. But if he doesn't get the win, I think Cav will be definitely aiming for the 2024 Olympics because obviously the road race will finish in Paris on the Champs Elysees, winning that gold medal, and in his sort of I imagine it's one of his favorite roads in the world. I think that'd be pretty special for him.
I mean, that is a good point. Like, we're discussing whether or not he would win a stage at the Tour de France. He might not beat Fabio Jakobsen. He might not be a Dylan Groenewegen. But yeah, if he does that kind of thing that we've seen him do twice at the British Nationals, where he kind of gets up the road and dictates the breakaway and finishes us off in the end, yeah, that could be the route to success.
Yeah, especially with such a team which can do that. Like if you get an on-form Moscon, let's say, and a Lutsenko in a break with him, there's no reason why Cav couldn't really do that because of how grippy that race was at the British Champs, which he won. If he can find that again, then absolutely. A breakaway could even, like you say, George, be a really good chance for him to try and snag that victory outside of the normal de facto sprint.
And I think Astana will throw as many resources as possible as him. He came in as a late signing, but Astana they've got the GC opportunities. You've got Lutsenko in the team, and you've got a few others that have been there or thereabouts, but they've never sort of really been looking like they could win a Grand Tour necessarily. Amazing riders, world class riders, but Cav offers them this opportunity to potentially win, the first Tour sprint stage they've won in a long time. And I think that's going to be something that really excites them. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Astana taking a team very much centered around Cav to the Tour this year.
Yeah, I don't think Lutsenko finishing outside the top 5 is not going to be a successful tour for them again. Yeah, as you guys said, he is such a late signing, but he is now their poster boy because there is no Miguel Angel Lopez.
And those bikes are so stunning. I'd like to see one of them on a podium. That paint job is so good, so good looking. So I think Cav needs to do it justice and get that win, surely.
We're filming on the Sunday, and there's actually been a race finished about 2.5 hours ago, the GP Almeria, and Arnaud was denied victory. It looked like he was in a very bad position. Uno X had the perfect lead out for Christoph, but he just didn't have the legs. What does this tell you anything? Oh, sorry, Moschetti won the race. I should say that as well.
I don't know. I think Dilly, I mean, didn't you say, Scott, would you say that he had to come from really far back as well?
Yeah, and I think he touched wheels with the Cofidis rider. It is well showed on screen, but it's very unusual.
I mean, if you're touching a wheel and you're having to come from really far back and you're still finishing second, I think he's still doing pretty good. You shouldn't be too worried about being beaten by a Moschetti or whatever. I think that Dilly is still an absolute world-class talent. He is a monster.
Moschetti, though, I mean, that's a big win, especially for his team, the former Quebec team. I think they're Q36.5, Q36.5 or something like that. But that team have come in and they've got a win early on in the season. And I think that'll be very promising for them. I think they've got invites to quite a few of the World Tour Classics, and I think they'll be targeting those. So, to see Moschetti get up there and get that win, I think they'll definitely be feeling good about the rest of the season.
So anyways, now we come to our final part of the show is where I'm nominating our Rider of the Week. And as George is being here for the first time, George, we'll let you go first. Who's your Rider of the Week?
My Rider of the Week, it might be a bit of a curveball, but James Oram, who's just won the PB National Champs, put him forward because I think he gets a lot of love in the Pro Tour peloton. I really, really do like the Black Spoke team and their setup. I know Tal Gegenhardt gave him a shout out, but the way they won that race was so dominant. And I know it's national champs, and it might not necessarily get the clout and the popularity of other World Tour things, but to see the emotion and the passion on his face when he crossed that line and he got that win, I think it was his first national champ title. That's why we love cycling, right? And so to see some of that outpouring of emotion, I can really connect that with that as a racer myself. And, when you get that win and it's an important one. So I think he's my rider of the week, and I really hope he has a great season.
Yeah, so my rider of the week is, no surprise, Ben Turner, of course.
Wow.
Just really, yeah.
That
You
was
got
a
to
shock.
listen.
Yorkshiremen going for Yorkshiremen.
You pick Danish people, all right? This is my time. I'm picking Ben Turner because I think that it was just great to see Ben get his first victory against some serious talent as well on a very punchy finish. I think that from last year in the Vuelta, he got a couple of top tens and some sprints and stuff. I think that he's increasing in his versatility and turning into a bit of a finisher as well. So long may it continue. Look forward to seeing what Ben can do in the upcoming Cobble Classics.
We forgot to mention as well that Richard Carapaz has just become the national champion for Ecuador 4 minutes ago in front of Cepeda and Cepeda. But Richard Carapaz is not going to be my rider of the week. I'm going to go for, because you went Yorkshire, I'm going to go Danish. Kasper Pedersen, who won his first victory in a very long time for his new team, Sodal Quickstep. So reason why, because he's had bad time at DSM and now doing well. But anyways, vote down below who you think should be the rider of the week. Do you even think it should be someone completely different? Maybe Tim Merlier winning his first victory, or Richard Carapaz becoming the Ecuadorian national champion. I don't think he's actually been that before. We saw Chavez win it for the first time, and let's check. I don't think he has. No, it's his first time. Carapaz, first time winning the national championship. So, but that's basically it. So thank you very much to George for joining us, and make sure to check out Outdo Cycling as well. Plenty of previews over there, and check out the Cycling Dane as well. But until next week, thank you for watching and or listening, and of course, have a nice day.